Hi everyone, Lisa here with Down to Earth Gardening and Design. Welcome to our video today. Today I'm going to be caring for my crown of thorns succulent shrub. So I inherited this beautiful plant and I'm excited to talk about it a little bit because it is really stunning, beautiful flowers and easy care. And it's also a pretty popular plant because it's easy care. I have seen it indoors if you're in a cold winter climate, or outdoors year-round if you're in zones 9 to 11. So I want to tell you a little bit about it first. I want to tell you what can go wrong with it, and then at the end of the video I'm going to walk you through how to care for it. So meaning we're going to be pruning, we're going to be repotting it, and then we're going to be doing a little bit of fertilizing as well. So lots on this fun succulent shrub today. So I mentioned that I did inherit this plant. I inherited it about 1.5 years ago, and I'm going to throw up a picture of it. It is red flowering, so it does come in some different colors. It comes in shades of pink and also yellow, which I want to show you a little clip of I think I have the yellow and the red. Beautiful flowers, leathery leaves, but I will have to say that the downside is it's very thorny and it's toxic, and actually when we prune it we want to be well protected because it does ooze a latex sap, which can be very irritating and toxic to the skin and eyes. So you want to be very careful with that as well. So let's talk about what happened to my crown of thorns, because it was in fantastic shape when I inherited it. So I'm going to bring it out now and we can talk about what went wrong and then some things that do go wrong. Here it is. And so it's pretty sad looking, and you can see why I need to do a lot of care here and why I wanted to do this video today, because we're going to go through all of the things that can go wrong, what happened to my beautiful crown of thorns, and then we're actually going to take some care of it here together today. So pruning, repotting, going through all of those things, troubleshooting as we go. So what happened was, it is, as I mentioned, a succulent shrub. It needs full sun and it will take a little bit of filtered shade. So it was in a nice south-facing sunny corner in the front of my house here. Left it for 3 to 4 months, and the neighbor's climbing bleeding heart vine climbed over their fence and onto our side and completely shaded and covered my crown of thorns. So I have a little video clip of what happened when I came back to it. I was absolutely shocked. So it was in the shade for quite a while, and that's why it's looking like it looks here. It's trying really hard though, I have to say. You can see the leathery leaves here, and you can see it's trying to throw out some flowers. So I want to go through the things that can go wrong. And number one, as I said, is it's not getting the correct amount of sunlight. So it should be getting full sun, so around 6 hours of sun a day is its requirement. So number two is it could be in improper soil. So because I inherited it in this pot here, I really don't know what kind of soil it's in. It needs to be well draining. It can't sit in wet soil because the roots will rot. So today's going to be give us a chance where we can lift it out, check the roots, and give it a new pot with a drainage hole and the right type of soil, which is a sandy or succulent mix. Number 3 reason that your crown of thorns may be suffering is over or under watering. So your crown of thorns only needs to be watered every other week, so every 12 to 14 days. So you can completely let it dry out before watering it. So we had just talked about how we want well draining soil with a drainage hole, and this is really important. You can't have your crown of thorns sitting in water. So over or under watering could be another reason it's not doing well. So the next thing that can go wrong is you can have some dead, damaged, or diseased branches. And really what you need to do is just prune it, and we are going to do that today. There's a lot of dead on this here, a lot of damaged branches here. You can see some evidence of the bleeding heart vine, which is pretty aggressive, and by the way, it propagates pretty easily. So underground roots, or actually it can just propagate in the ground, and I have a few around where this was located and in the pot. So we're going to be cleaning this out as we're working on it today. So the next thing that can go wrong is you haven't fertilized it. So it does require some fertilizer. So I like to use a well-rounded fertilizer, and I'm going to show you what I have mixed up here, because at the end we are going to be doing some fertilizing. It's just a Miracle-Gro. You can use 10-10-10. I like a water-soluble fertilizer. And that's pretty much it, folks. If we do all these things, then we should be able to get this crown of thorns back in tip-top shape. So we're going to start here by just cleaning the pot out a little bit, because we still have a lot of that vine that took over the plant in here. So I just want to clean it out a little bit so we can see what's going on. Okay, so let's start with pruning here. So you can use some pruners. I have my bypass pruners, or you can also use loppers, or in a pinch you can also use shears. And the timing of doing your pruning time of year doesn't really matter. So I'm doing it now in very early spring, and then that way through its growing season it'll have time to rejuvenate. So you can see the new growth here, and that it does have some nice healthy leaves and flowers on it. So I am going to try to leave some leaves here. And we're going to start by cutting away the dead with my sterilized bypass pruners. So remember, again, wear protection, because you can see how dangerous this little plant can be. So we're just gonna cut any of the dead either right back to the soil line, and if it's damaged, we're gonna cut it back to some healthy growth. So it looks like this whole thing can come off. So you can see here how dead it is. Now remember, if it's a nice healthy branch, you should see some of that sap that we talked about. And I do have a little spray bottle with some cold water in it, because I've heard that if you spray the tips where the sap is oozing from, it'll slow it down a little bit. So we have that on hand. So another reason to prune is if you want to keep your crown of thorns a little bit shorter. It can get up to 5 to 6 feet tall if you leave it alone. And because it's so thorny, it may be tough to find a spot for it where it can get to its mature height and width. So keeping it small and keeping it really bushy is ideal, and pruning is a great way to do that. So if you are just cutting back to some healthy growth, this is a little sad here, you will get 2 to 3 stems that will branch out. And there you go. So you can tell here that is some healthy growth there. So let's just try this. Okay. And that's going to shorten it up a little bit too. can see here, there is the toxic sap. So if you're not sure that the whole thing is dead and it looks like there's a little bit more growth on this, just do it in stages and then you can have a look once you make your cut. Okay, so that was a good move. We can leave that on it. There's some leaves here, but not a very healthy branch. It's just kind of hanging off there. So take that off. Take this off. So a little selective pruning will go a long way. Now my goal is to just cut it back by about half. It's a little gangly here. We want to get this bushier, shrubbier, just not as leggy. And clean it up. So I'm also taking off anything that is crossing or touching. Try to give it a little bit of air circulation and a chance for every part of it to be able to see some sunlight since it hasn't in a while. Okay, so it's a great time to repot after you prune, right? Because we've just made it a little smaller, so a little more manageable and easier to handle. So I'm gonna take it out of the pot here and we're gonna have a look. And remember, we wanna use some succulent soil and we wanna make sure we get a pot that has a drainage hole or a few drainage holes even. So the size pot, I'm gonna do about the same size pot. And it's great if you can use terracotta or clay because it'll wick away any excess moisture. Now, when you choose your pot, you don't need your saucer. You don't want to be watering it from the bottom or leaving water in your saucer because that's how we can get some root rot here. So selecting your container and your potting soil is also very important for this process. All right, we're going to make even more of a mess here. Okay, so the soil doesn't look too bad, but what I will tell you is there was this one drainage hole in the bottom, which is good, and this is a plastic pot, so not my preference for pot, but it looks like it may have been sitting in a little bit of water here, that it wasn't really draining that well, and that may just be because it's been in this pot for a while. So we're going to use this pot and get rid of some of this debris. This plant is going to be so happy with its new pot and its new home. Now's my chance to really clean it up because I can handle it by its roots. Okay, here is my new container. And you can see here it does have a drainage hole. I also like the fact that it is a terracotta because it's a little heavier, so it's not as tippy. Okay, so here we are, and we did discover something else. So I mentioned how it needed to be well-draining soil. Roots can't be sitting in water, and that was also one of the problems. When we took it out of the pot, we looked at the roots. They were a little damp, and it's been very dry weather lately, and we could see in the pot that the water wasn't draining very well. So it must have been in that pot for a very long time. So I think that it's going to do really well with a little bit of care, and I also want to talk about that in a minute. I did have to use a bamboo stake and just loosely tie up a little bit. I probably could have gotten a couple of plants out of this by teasing the roots apart, but I really want a nice full crown of thorns, so I'm going to keep it together. And in another video, I am going to show you how easy it is to propagate this plant and get some free plants from some cuttings, so stay tuned for that. So what we want to do now is we want to move it to its full sun location. I'm definitely not going to put it back near that aggressive bleeding heart vine. So we're going to give it a new home with some nice sun, and we're going to give it a nice water when I put it in place. And remember, I have some fertilizer in here, so you do want to give it some fertilizer so it can keep producing these gorgeous flowers that we're looking for. So that's it for today. Thank you for joining me for my project, and I really hope that I've helped all of you at home with your crown of thorns. And if you like this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel because we have a lot more gardening coming your way.